Downton Abbey is one of the most popular British television drama series that premiered in 2010 and ran for 6 seasons. It is also one of my favorite TV shows and my go-to comfort show. When watching period dramas in general, I always wonder if the protagonists were real people, and if so, what their true story was. So I found myself Googling and researching. While Downton Abbey does take creative liberties with historical accuracy, the show's setting, costumes, and architecture are relatively authentic. Some characters, plot lines, and events are fictionalized. However, the inspiration of some of the Crawley family members and their circumstances do trace back to actual historical figures. The show is set in the early 20th century and follows the lives of the aristocratic Crawley family and their servants at Downton Abbey, a grand estate in Yorkshire. The Crawley's estate is a real-life place. Its true name is Highclere Castle, where parts of the show and the movies were filmed. Highclere was bought in 1679 by Sir Robert Sawyer. Later, his nephew Henry Herbert, who was also a minor character in the show The Crown, inherited Highclere Castle. Nowadays, Highclere has belonged to the Carnarvon family for 300 years and is currently home to the Earl and Countess of Carnarvon. A plot point in the show that is based on real events is the story of Earl Grantham's wife, Cora, or Lady Grantham. In the show, it's revealed that Lady Grantham is a US heiress who brought a significant dowry with her to Downton. She was one of the so-called American dollar princesses, who were wealthy daughters from American families. They usually married into noble European dynasties during the 19th and early 20th century. Both sides benefited from these transactional marriages by exchanging wealth for prestige and status. Lady Grantham's story is loosely based off of Lady Almina's, the great-grandmother of the current Earl of Carnarvon. She married George Herbert, the 5th Earl of Carnarvon, in 1895. Born as Almina Wombwell, she was brought up in London by a French mother and a British stepfather. Her biological father, however, was supposedly the American banker Alfred the Rothschild, or Rothschild, a member of the famous Rothschild family. He gave Almina the huge dowry in marriage, and as his only child, she benefited from his wealth all her life. With the money from the dowry, Almina did not only pay off her new husband's debt, but she also financed renovations around the castle, and she funded the upscale lifestyle that was still expected from British nobles, including grand dinner parties and employing an extensive staff. The couple went on to have a son and a daughter, Henry and Evelyn. Henry would inherit his father's titles and estate and would die at the old age of 88, so there was no issue with the line of succession as in Downton Abbey. There was no tragic loss of an heir during the sinking of the Titanic, and unfortunately there was no Matthew, no Mary, no Edith, and no Sybil either. Another parallel to the show are the events during World War I. During the war, Lady Almina and her family voluntarily turned their estate into a hospital to care for wounded army officers. Plenty of medical staff was hired to help the local doctor take care of the patients. It is delivered that the wounded soldiers were met at the door by Lady Almina. The present Lady Carnarvon runs a blog where one can find a detailed report about Highclere Castle during World War I. She also published a book named Lady Almina and the story of the real Downton Abbey, and I will definitely link that below. Similar to the show, Lady Almina did have part of the castle turn into an operating theatre and hosted silver service dinners, which were followed by cards in the library. After the wartime, many former patients expressed their gratitude to the family and especially to Lady Almina. While Cora's and Almina's stories do differ, there are clearly some parallels, especially when it comes to the challenges of the time. Other characters like Henry Talbot do have their inspiration in true-life noble families. He is probably supposed to be a distant family member of the Shrewsbury Talbots, an old noble family and earldom founded in the 15th century. While he is not based on a certain individual, Downton Abbey does allude to actual noble families. Figures like Neville Chamberlain, who appears in season 6 before he became Prime Minister, or Australian operatic soprano Dame Nellie Melba and British writer Virginia Woolf are obviously based on real people. The producer of the show, Julian Fellowes, also stated that some characters of the show were inspired by his family members. For example, Lady Violet Grantham is inspired by Fellowes' aunt, and Lord Robert Grantham's character does have some parallels with Fellowes' father. The first Downton Abbey movie evolves around the king's and queen's visit to Downton, and in the past, Highclere Castle has indeed hosted kings and queens, similar to the plotline. King George and Queen Mary did visit Yorkshire in 1912 to demonstrate the king's affection for his people publicly, and during this visit they stayed at Wentworth House, a grand estate in South Yorkshire. In 1917, they did come to visit Highclere Castle to see the Veterans Hospital as well. The show Downton Abbey did explore themes of social change, romance, and drama as the family navigates the challenges of maintaining their way of life amidst the development of the British aristocracy. While the show depicts some real-life characters and events, a lot of it, however, is purely fictional. I always love the dynamic and intertwinement between the upstairs and downstairs life. However, the close and caring relationship the Crawleys had with some of their staff does seem unlikely, as research has shown, and I will link an article about that below. Nowadays, Highclere Castle is still inhabited by the Carnarvon family. It's open to the public on most days and offers tours and special events. Personally, I would love to visit it one day. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about Downton Abbey's inspiration, and in case you haven't heard yet, there is a third movie filming right now, and I'm so excited for the characters to return.